In the bustling kitchens of the 1960s, when times were changing and families were navigating the challenges of post-war life, dinner time became a chance to hold on to tradition while embracing the new. Today, we're taking a trip back to those iconic family dinners, meals that were quick, comforting, and often whipped up with whatever was on hand. Join me as we rediscover 25 forgotten meals that every 1960s family ate weekly, bringing a taste of the past back to life. 1. Tuna noodle casserole. Tuna noodle casserole is one of those timeless comfort foods that instantly transports you back to the 1960s. With its creamy sauce, tender pasta, and flaked tuna, this dish became a mainstay in American kitchens during the decades after its KDE. It wasn't just a meal, it was a solution to the everyday challenges that families faced in a fast-paced world. As hectic as life could be, tuna noodle casserole was a quick, affordable, and hearty dish that made mealtime manageable for busy parents juggling work, school, and everything in between. The 1960s marked a significant shift in American cooking, largely due to the rise of convenience foods. Families, especially working moms, found themselves turning to prepackaged, easy-to-prepare meals more than ever before. It was during this time that canned goods, processed ingredients, and packaged mixes really began to dominate the American kitchen. Tuna noodle casserole, with its simple yet delicious ingredients, was the perfect representation of this transformation. Canned tuna, a pantry staple in many households, paired perfectly with egg noodles, canned cream of mushroom soup, and frozen peas, ingredients that could be found in almost every home. These were the essentials that made tuna noodle casserole the perfect choice for an effortless, hearty meal. The magic of tuna noodle casserole was in its simplicity. The base recipe was incredibly straightforward, making it accessible even for those who didn't consider themselves experienced cooks. It didn't require intricate preparation or long hours in the kitchen. Instead, it could be quickly assembled and popped into the oven, giving families a filling dinner without the fuss. This made it a go-to dish on busy weeknights, when everyone was running in different directions and time was limited. And for even greater convenience, the casserole could easily be prepared ahead of time, ready to be baked and served when the family finally gathered at the table. What made tuna noodle casserole so beloved, however, wasn't just its convenience, it was its adaptability. The basic recipe provided a solid foundation, but it left plenty of room for creativity. Some families added a handful of extra vegetables like corn, carrots, or bell peppers to boost nutrition and flavor. Others topped their casserole with a crunchy layer of breadcrumbs or grated cheese, creating a golden, crispy finish that added texture to the creamy dish. Whether you used fresh ingredients, canned goods, or frozen vegetables, the result was always the same: a comforting, flavorful meal that brought warmth to the table. Even in the 1960s, tuna noodle casserole was known as a budget-friendly option, allowing families to stretch a small amount of protein and ingredients into a satisfying meal. It became a favorite because it was affordable, delicious, and easy to make, everything you could want in a family dinner. Today, it remains a nostalgic favorite, reminding us of a time when meals didn't need to be complicated to be loved and enjoyed. It's a dish that continues to provide comfort, a small culinary relic from a time when simplicity and practicality were at the heart of home cooking. 2. Meatloaf. Meatloaf is undeniably one of the most iconic comfort foods of the 1960s, evoking a sense of warmth and familiarity that made families feel at home after a long, busy day. With its hearty texture, savory flavor, and satisfying nature, meatloaf quickly became a staple on dinner tables across America. For many, it was the ultimate go-to meal: simple, affordable, and reliably filling. In an era when convenience and practicality were key, meatloaf was the perfect dish that could feed a family without much fuss, offering both nutrition and comfort in every bite. At its core, meatloaf is a straightforward dish, but that simplicity was one of its greatest strengths. The recipe usually consisted of ground beef, which was an affordable protein choice in the 1960s. The beef was combined with breadcrumbs, eggs, and seasonings like salt, pepper, and garlic, forming a flavorful and moist base. But it didn't stop there. Families in the 1960s often added their own twists, from a handful of finely chopped onions to a dash of Worcestershire sauce, giving the dish personal flair and a unique taste. And of course, the hallmark of a good meatloaf was the glaze. Many would use ketchup or tomato paste, creating a tangy, slightly sweet finish that caramelized as it baked, forming a savory crust that was always the highlight of the meal. The real beauty of meatloaf, though, was in its adaptability. The dish was so versatile that it could be customized to suit any family's tastes. Some households preferred a bit of heat, adding mustard or hot sauce into the mix, while others lean toward a more herby approach, stirring in thyme or rosemary for added depth of flavor. Meatloaf could be as simple or as elaborate as desired, making it a dish that fit easily into any family's culinary routine. Additionally, the combination of ground beef and breadcrumbs meant the dish could stretch a modest amount of meat into a meal that satisfied everyone at the table, making it both cost-effective and filling. One of the most practical aspects of meatloaf was its ability to serve as a leftover meal. A slice of meatloaf from dinner could easily be transformed into a sandwich the next day, providing another meal with minimal effort. This convenience made it an even more attractive option for busy families, especially when there were kids to feed and time was always tight. Meatloaf, in its many variations, also brought people together. It was a dish that could be passed around the table with ease, enjoyed by everyone, and often became a central part of family gatherings. The smell of meatloaf wafting from the oven became a comforting, nostalgic aroma for countless families, signaling that dinner was ready and it was time to sit down and share a meal. Today, meatloaf remains a beloved comfort food, a nostalgic reminder of simpler times when meals were about nourishment, family, and creating memories together. Despite the rise of more complex culinary trends, meatloaf endures as a reminder that sometimes the simplest meals, like this timeless classic, are the ones we remember the most fondly. It transcends generations, reminding us that in the end, food isn't just about ingredients, it's about the love and care we put into it. Third, Salisbury steak with brown gravy. Salisbury steak with brown gravy is one of those quintessential 1960s meals that embodied the perfect balance of hearty, satisfying, and affordable. This classic comfort food quickly became a go-to dish for busy families who needed something filling yet simple to prepare after a long day. The rich, flavorful combination of seasoned ground beef patties, smothered in a savory brown gravy, made for a comforting meal that could easily feed a family of 4. Often paired with mashed potatoes or rice to soak up the delicious gravy, Salisbury steak was not just a meal, it was an experience. Whether it was a quick weeknight dinner or a special weekend treat, this dish was a beloved staple in many American households. The origins of Salisbury steak are somewhat murky, but by the 1960s, it had already earned a place in American cuisine. The dish is named after Dr. James Salisbury, a 19th century American physician who advocated for a meat-heavy diet for health benefits. The version we know today, however, was a more affordable, accessible take on the traditional steak, often made with ground beef. During the 1960s, this ground beef patty version of Salisbury steak became particularly popular because it was both budget-friendly and easy to prepare. The key ingredients were simple: ground beef, breadcrumbs, onions, and seasoning. The mixture was shaped into oval patties, pan-fried, and then simmered in a flavorful, rich gravy. Salisbury steak's appeal was not only in its affordability, but also in its versatility. Families in the 1960s could easily tweak the recipe to suit their tastes or make use of whatever ingredients they had on hand. Some added minced garlic, while others included fresh herbs like thyme or rosemary to elevate the flavor of the beef. The brown gravy itself was a simple yet indulgent creation made from beef broth, flour, and seasoning. For extra depth, many cooks incorporated a splash of Worcestershire sauce or red wine into the gravy, giving the sauce a slightly tangy richness that complemented the savory patties perfectly. One of the best parts of Salisbury steak was the way it soaked up that delicious brown gravy. Served alongside mashed potatoes or buttered rice, the gravy became the perfect addition, tying all the elements of the meal together. The potatoes or rice helped balance out the savory richness of the meat and sauce, creating a comforting, complete meal that felt like a warm embrace at the dinner table. For busy families in the 1960s, Salisbury steak was a practical and economical dinner option. The dish could be prepared quickly. Simply form the patties, make the gravy, and let everything simmer together. What's more, leftovers were easy to use. The remaining meat could be served in sandwiches the next day, or even tossed with pasta for a second, different meal. This versatility made it a hit in many homes, as it stretched a small amount of meat into multiple meals. Today, Salisbury steak with brown gravy remains a nostalgic comfort food, evoking memories of cozy family dinners and the simpler times of the 1960s. It's a dish that stands the test of time. Its straightforward ingredients and rich flavor continue to bring comfort to the dinner table. Whether you're looking for a quick weeknight meal or a dish that reminds you of home, Salisbury steak with brown gravy is a deliciously satisfying choice that will never go out of style. 4. Chicken a la king. Chicken a la king is one of those dishes that perfectly straddles the line between elegance and simplicity. It combines creamy, savory sauce with tender chunks of chicken, mushrooms, and bell peppers, creating a comforting yet refined meal. In the 1960s, when kitchens were evolving with convenience and speed in mind, chicken a la king became a beloved favorite. It felt special enough for a dinner party, but it was also quick and easy enough for a weeknight meal. With the rise of processed foods and the desire for meals that were both tasty and efficient, chicken a la king embodied the spirit of the era, offering a blend of luxury and practicality in every bite. While the precise origins of chicken a la king are debated, it undeniably became a popular dish in mid-century American homes. The name itself is often associated with luxury and refinement, but its popularity grew as families began experimenting with more sophisticated meals that didn't require hours of preparation. The basic recipe featured tender, cooked chicken, often left over from a roast or rotisserie, combined with a creamy sauce made from butter, flour, milk, and chicken broth. The addition of mushrooms and bell peppers not only enhanced the flavor, but also added texture and a burst of color, turning a simple dish into something visually appealing. The dish was traditionally served over rice, toast, or egg noodles, making it an incredibly versatile choice. One of the key reasons chicken a la king became so beloved in the 1960s was its simplicity. At a time when convenience was key, the dish was easy to prepare with minimal effort. Home cooks often turned to canned or frozen vegetables and pre-cooked chicken to save time, making it even more practical for busy families. The entire dish could be cooked in one pan, reducing both preparation time and cleanup. For working parents, who were often balancing careers and household responsibilities, this meal was an ideal solution, comforting and flavorful without demanding too much time or attention. It was a meal that could be prepared quickly, yet still feel elegant enough to serve to guests or share with family after a long day. The versatility of chicken a la king only added to its appeal. While the basic recipe remained consistent, families often put their own spin on it. Some preferred peas over bell peppers, while others added fresh herbs like thyme or parsley for an extra layer of flavor. The dish could also be made ahead of time and baked in the oven with a golden, crispy topping, allowing it to be served in a more structured form. This flexibility made chicken a la king not only a time-saving weeknight option, but also a dish that could be customized for different tastes and occasions. Even today, chicken a la king remains a nostalgic favorite, a reminder of mid-century American cooking that was comforting, creamy, and full of warmth. It evokes memories of family dinners, where food didn't have to be complex to be loved and memorable. The dish is timeless, effortlessly adaptable to today's busy kitchens, while still honoring its place in history as a simple yet luxurious meal. Whether served for a cozy family dinner or as a meal prepped for the week, chicken a la king continues to remind us of a time when home cooking was all about simplicity, comfort, and making do with what you had. Fifth, waffle breakfast. There's something undeniably joyful about waking up to the smell of freshly cooked waffles filling the house on a Saturday morning. The warm, golden hue of the waffles, the crispy edges, and the soft, airy center all combine to create a breakfast that feels like a treat, not just a meal. The experience of biting into a warm, syrup-soaked waffle, topped with butter, or a dusting of powdered sugar, was more than just eating in the 1960s. It was a cherished ritual. Waffle breakfast became a highlight of the weekend, a time for families to slow down, gather together, and enjoy something special before diving into the busyness of the days ahead. The 1960s marked a turning point in how families approached breakfast. While the Depression era had taught families to make do with simple and often sparse morning meals, the 1960s ushered in an era of more indulgent mornings. With the rise of modern kitchen appliances, including electric waffle irons, breakfast became an opportunity for families to enjoy something a little more luxurious. Waffles, which were once reserved for special occasions, had become a weekend staple in many homes. The simple pleasure of making waffles together became a tradition that allowed families to savor each other's company before the whirlwind of the weekend began. Electric waffle irons revolutionized the way waffles were made in the 1960s. No longer did families have to rely on heavy cast iron waffle pans over an open flame. Now, they could easily make crisp, golden waffles with just the press of a button. The sound of the waffle iron clicking shut, followed by the aroma of batter cooking, was enough to make anyone excited. The beauty of waffles lay in their simplicity. Just a handful of ingredients like flour, eggs, milk, sugar, and baking powder were needed to create a delicious and filling breakfast. And the best part? They could be topped in countless ways, allowing for endless creativity. For many families, waffles became a weekend tradition, a way to make Saturday mornings feel extra special. While the store-bought frozen Eggo waffles wouldn't make their debut until later in the decade, Homemade waffles were the reigning favorite. Families could personalize their waffles with a variety of toppings. Some stuck with the tried-and-true butter and syrup, while others took it up a notch with fresh fruit, whipped cream, or even a scoop of ice cream for a more decadent experience. Chocolate chips, powdered sugar, and cinnamon were also common additions, making each waffle breakfast a reflection of the family's unique tastes. Waffle breakfasts in the 1960s were a simple joy that brought families closer together. It was a time when food wasn't just about sustenance, it was about taking a moment to enjoy something delicious and share it with loved ones. Today, waffles remain a nostalgic symbol of weekend breakfasts, reminding us of a simpler time when food was more than just fuel. It was a way to create lasting memories, savor the little moments, and start the weekend with a warm, delicious bite. 6. Canned soup and grilled cheese sandwiches. There's a timeless comfort in the classic combination of a warm bowl of canned tomato soup paired with a crispy, buttery grilled cheese sandwich. For many, this simple meal evokes memories of cozy kitchens, the satisfying crunch of golden brown toast with melting cheese, and the rich aroma of soup gently simmering on the stove. In the 1960s, this combination was a staple for families looking for something quick, affordable, and filling. It became the perfect go-to meal on busy evenings when time was tight, yet a wholesome, satisfying dinner was still needed. Canned soups, especially Campbell's tomato soup, were a household essential in the 1960s. This era saw a surge in the popularity of convenience foods, and canned soups fit the bill perfectly. Inexpensive, easy to store, and requiring only minimal preparation, just heat and serve, these soups quickly became a lifeline for busy parents. Tomato soup, with its velvety texture and tangy flavor, was the most popular choice, often making an appearance on the dinner table when families needed something quick but comforting. When paired with a grilled cheese sandwich, tomato soup became more than just a bowl of soup. It became an experience. The smooth, creamy base of the soup and its slightly acidic tomato taste perfectly balanced the richness of the grilled cheese, making it an unbeatable pairing that was both nostalgic and satisfying. The grilled cheese sandwich itself was a marvel of simplicity and indulgence. Just a few basic ingredients, bread, butter, and cheese, came together to create a meal that was as comforting as it was delicious. American or cheddar cheese was often the cheese of choice, and when it melted between slices of toasted, buttered bread, it turned into a gooey, savory filling that was irresistible. Frying the sandwich in butter created a crisp, golden exterior that offered a satisfying crunch with every bite. The combination of crispy, buttery bread and molten cheese made the grilled cheese sandwich the perfect companion for the warm, tangy tomato soup. The beauty of grilled cheese sandwiches lay in their versatility. Whether served with tomato soup or enjoyed on their own, they were always comforting and soul-satisfying. It was also an easy way to use up leftover bread or cheese, making it a practical and resourceful meal that was always within reach. For families in the 1960s, the pairing of canned soup and grilled cheese sandwiches was the ideal solution for quick dinners, rainy day lunches, or even late-night snacks. It was a meal that required little effort, but still provided a hearty, fulfilling dish that could feed the whole family. What made this combination so appealing was its simplicity. No frills, no complicated steps, just a warm, comforting meal that could be prepared in minutes. Even today, canned soup and grilled cheese sandwiches remain a nostalgic comfort food, reminding us of simpler times when food didn't need to be fancy to bring joy. This enduring duo continues to warm hearts and fill bellies, a testament to the enduring charm of meals that are uncomplicated yet deeply satisfying. 7. Jell-O salad. There's something whimsically nostalgic about the sight of a Jell-O salad sitting on the dinner table, its colorful layers gleaming in the light like a vibrant, edible centerpiece. Whether it was a bright red, a tangy green, or a rainbow of flavors, Jell-O salads were the show-stopping side dish of many 1960s meals. These bright, jiggly creations were more than just a dessert. They were a celebration of color and creativity, and they played a starring role in many family gatherings. The playful nature of Jell-O salads made them a fun, eye-catching addition to any table, adding a sense of excitement and festivity to the meal. In the 1960s, Jell-O was elevated beyond its usual status as a simple dessert to become a signature part of the American dinner table. Housewives loved to get creative with this wobbly treat, turning it into salads that were as much about texture and presentation as they were about flavor. Jell-O salads were often a mix of sweet and savory ingredients, incorporating a variety of fruits, vegetables, and even marshmallows or nuts. Imagine peaches suspended in lime Jell-O, or shredded carrots nestled inside a vibrant raspberry Jell-O. The result was a dish that was not only refreshing, but quirky, a fun surprise that added personality to the meal. The popularity of Jell-O salads in the 1960s also reflected the larger trend of convenience cooking. Jell-O was inexpensive, widely available, and required minimal preparation. For busy homemakers, it was the perfect solution for an easy, yet visually striking side dish that could be made ahead of time and stored in the fridge. With a few basic ingredients like gelatin, whipped cream, or mayonnaise, homemakers could create an entire range of Jell-O salads that were as delicious as they were colorful. A green Jell-O salad filled with peas, or a bright orange one topped with shredded carrots and walnuts, became common sights at the family table. The creamy elements, such as mayonnaise or sour cream, added an unexpected richness to the salads, creating a balance of sweet and savory flavors that was uniquely mid-century. Jell-O salads were especially popular at parties, potlucks, and holiday gatherings. Their vibrant colors made them the star of any buffet, often drawing curious glances and sparking conversation. They were fun to look at, fun to eat, and always a guaranteed hit with guests. The addition of fruit and nuts gave the dish texture, while the gelatin itself provided a smooth, refreshing element that helped cut through the richness of other dishes. Whether served as a side dish or as a colorful accompaniment to the main course, Jell-O salads were an undeniable presence at any meal. Though modern tastes may find it difficult to imagine fruit-flavored gelatin mingling with vegetables or savory elements, Jell-O salads remain a nostalgic symbol of mid-century American dining. They remind us of a time when food wasn't just about taste. It was about fun, color, and the joy of sharing meals together. Today, the jiggly delight of Jell-O salad stands as a quirky reminder of a bygone era, evoking fond memories of holiday dinners, family gatherings, and the uniquely creative spirit of 1960s home cooking. 8. Spaghetti and meatballs. Spaghetti and meatballs is the kind of dish that never goes out of style, and for families in the 1960s, it became a beloved staple of weeknight dinners and special family gatherings. This hearty, flavorful meal, featuring tender meatballs simmered in a rich tomato sauce and served over a bed of pasta, was a satisfying and affordable way to bring everyone to the table. It was the ultimate comfort food. Simple yet filling, and always full of flavor. By the 1960s, Italian-American cuisine had firmly rooted itself in American kitchens, and spaghetti and meatballs was at the forefront of this culinary wave. The dish, with its roots in southern Italy, had been Americanized over time, with larger, meatier meatballs and a more robust tomato sauce that suited American tastes. Ground beef, breadcrumbs, garlic, and seasonings like oregano and basil were the basic components of the meatballs, while the sauce was made from canned tomatoes, onions, garlic, and a variety of herbs, simmered to create a deep, savory flavor. What made spaghetti and meatballs such a hit in the 1960s was its combination of convenience and comfort. It was an affordable meal that could feed a large family, and it didn't require fancy ingredients or complicated techniques. The meatballs could be made ahead of time, and the sauce simmered in a single pot, making cleanup easy. Additionally, spaghetti, a pantry staple, was quick to cook, and the whole dish could be prepared in less than an hour, making it an ideal meal for busy families. For many, spaghetti and meatballs became synonymous with family time. It was a dish often served on Sundays, creating a sense of tradition and togetherness. The generous servings of pasta, drenched in sauce, and the satisfying meatballs made for a meal that could be enjoyed by everyone, from young children to grandparents. Even today, spaghetti and meatballs remains a timeless classic, evoking memories of simpler times when food was about comfort, family, and tradition. It's the kind of meal that continues to bring people together, just as it did in the 1960s. 9. Beef stew. Beef stew is the kind of meal that wraps you in warmth and comfort, making it an enduring favorite in many 1960s homes. The hearty, savory broth filled with tender chunks of beef and perfectly cooked vegetables is the epitome of a satisfying meal. It was a dish that was synonymous with cold nights, family gatherings, and the cozy feeling of a home-cooked dinner, with the slow-cooked flavors and the satisfaction of a one-pot meal. Beef stew became a beloved staple for families looking for something that would nourish the body and fill the house with delicious, mouth-watering aromas. In the 1960s, beef stew rose to prominence as the ultimate comfort food. This post-war era was marked by an increase in the availability of canned goods, prepackaged ingredients, and affordable cuts of meat, making beef stew ingredients both accessible and budget-friendly. It was a perfect meal for working-class families, as it required relatively inexpensive ingredients that could easily be found in most homes. Stews were typically made with tougher cuts of beef, like chuck roast or stew meat, which became tender and flavorful after slow cooking. transforming what would otherwise be a less expensive cut into something melt-in-your-mouth delicious. Potatoes, carrots, onions, and peas were the essential vegetables, each simmering in a rich beef stock-based broth, thickened with flour and seasoned with a variety of spices. For many families in the 1960s, beef stew was the perfect practical and economical meal. It was an ideal dish for feeding a large family, as the ingredients could be easily stretched by adding more vegetables or using leftovers from a previous meal. The one-pot nature of beef stew made it a go-to choice for busy moms and dads who wanted something hearty without a pile of dishes to clean afterward. As the stew simmered on the stove, the kitchen would fill with the comforting scent of the beef and vegetables cooking slowly together, with the flavors blending beautifully over time. The long cooking process allowed for the development of deep, rich flavors, transforming a simple dish into something indulgent and satisfying, all while requiring little hands-on effort. What makes beef stew so timeless is its flexibility. While the classic recipe called for beef, potatoes, carrots, and onions, it was easy to add other vegetables or adjust the seasoning to suit the family's taste. Some cooks liked to add a bay leaf or thyme for extra depth, while others would splash in a bit of red wine or Worcestershire sauce to deepen the richness of the broth. Whether served with a side of crusty bread to soak up the savory broth or enjoyed all on its own, beef stew was a meal that could be adapted to whatever was on hand, making it both versatile and budget-friendly. Today, beef stew remains a comforting reminder of simpler times. For those who grew up in the 1960s, it's a nostalgic dish that represents home-cooked goodness and the warmth of family meals. It's a meal that brings people together, offering both comfort and the joy of sharing a hearty, flavorful dish around the dinner table. Beef stew, with its richness and flexibility, continues to evoke memories of home, love, and the delicious simplicity of a meal made with care. 10. Hot dogs with sauerkraut. Hot dogs with sauerkraut was a simple yet beloved meal that captured the essence of 1960s family dining. Hot dogs were an American classic, a quick and satisfying meal that was perfect for both casual dinners and special occasions. The addition of sauerkraut, a tangy fermented cabbage, added a delightful contrast to the rich, savory flavor of the hot dog, creating a combination that was both flavorful and satisfying. It was a dish that could be whipped up in minutes, making it ideal for busy families, especially on days when a little comfort food was needed. During the 1960s, hot dogs were a staple in many American homes, thanks to their affordability and convenience. They were often served at backyard barbecues, picnics, and cookouts, but they were just as common as a quick weeknight dinner. Hot dogs could be grilled, boiled, or even microwaved, making them an easy choice for any occasion. The addition of sauerkraut gave the dish a more complex flavor, balancing the richness of the meat with the tartness of the cabbage. Sauerkraut, a key ingredient in German cuisine, became a popular topping for hot dogs in the 1960s, reflecting the growing interest in ethnic flavors during that time. The combination of the tangy sauerkraut with the smoky, juicy hot dog was not only a flavorful contrast, but also provided a bit of variety to the standard hot dog experience. The dish was often served with mustard, ketchup, or onions, depending on family preferences. For busy families in the 1960s, hot dogs with sauerkraut were the perfect solution for a quick and easy meal. The ingredients were inexpensive, easy to store, and required minimal preparation. It was also a meal that could be easily adjusted to fit the tastes of different family members, whether that meant adding more sauerkraut, topping it with a little extra mustard, or even opting for a different type of sausage altogether. Today, hot dogs with sauerkraut continue to evoke a sense of nostalgia, reminding us of simpler times when meals were quick, affordable, and full of comforting flavors. This dish remains a timeless favorite, representing a tradition of American comfort food that continues to bring people together. 11th, beef stroganoff. Beef stroganoff, with its tender strips of beef in a rich, creamy sauce, was a classic dish in many 1960s kitchens. This comforting meal, often served over egg noodles or rice, offered a taste of elegance without requiring hours of preparation. Its rich, velvety sauce, made with sour cream and beef broth, was the perfect complement to the savory, tender beef, creating a meal that felt special, but was simple enough for busy families. By the 1960s, beef stroganoff had become a popular dish in America, even though it originally hails from Russia. The American version of this dish adapted the traditional recipe, which usually featured lamb or veal, to more readily available and affordable beef. It became a beloved weeknight dinner, especially in homes where busy moms were seeking meals that were both satisfying and relatively quick to prepare. The simplicity of the ingredients, beef, sour cream, onions, garlic, and a few seasonings, meant that beef stroganoff could be made with pantry staples and minimal fuss. For families in the 1960s, beef stroganoff was a comforting meal that felt a bit more indulgent than everyday dinners. The beef was sautéed until browned, then simmered in a creamy sauce, creating a delicious contrast between the richness of the sauce and the tender beef. It was often served over a bed of buttered egg noodles, though rice or mashed potatoes were also common choices. The creaminess of the sauce, with its slightly tangy flavor from the sour cream, was the highlight of the dish, making it the kind of comfort food that would warm you up on a cold evening. The beauty of beef stroganoff lay in its versatility. Some families added mushrooms, while others included a splash of wine or mustard for an extra kick. Leftovers were often turned into sandwiches or served again the next day, making it a practical choice as well as a tasty one. Even today, beef stroganoff evokes the nostalgia of simpler times, reminding us of a time when dinner didn't need to be complicated to be delicious and satisfying. 12th, fried chicken. Fried chicken is a dish that instantly evokes a sense of nostalgia, and for many families in the 1960s, it was a weekend staple, crispy on the outside, tender and juicy on the inside. It was the kind of meal that brought everyone to the table, whether it was a family dinner or a Sunday feast with extended relatives. Fried chicken in the 1960s was a labor of love, an embodiment of the era's comfort food, and it became the centerpiece of countless meals throughout the decade. In the 1960s, fried chicken was considered a special dish that didn't need to be prepared every day, but was reserved for moments when families could come together and share something hearty. While the origins of fried chicken can be traced back to Southern cuisine, its popularity spread across the country by the 1960s, with each region adding its own unique spin. The core concept remained the same: chicken pieces, coated in seasoned flour or batter, then fried to golden perfection in hot oil. The result was a crunchy, flavorful exterior with a juicy, tender chicken inside that was irresistible. The beauty of fried chicken was in its simplicity. The preparation often involved seasoning the chicken with salt, pepper, and other spices like paprika, garlic powder, or cayenne pepper. After being coated in flour or batter, the chicken would be fried in hot oil until crispy and golden brown. The dish didn't require much more than that, though some families added their personal touch with a buttermilk soak or double coating for extra crunch. Side dishes like mashed potatoes, coleslaw, or biscuits often accompanied the fried chicken, creating a meal that was both filling and comforting. For 1960s families, fried chicken was a way to celebrate, a dish that was often served during family gatherings, picnics, or Sunday dinners. It was a meal that felt special, but wasn't overly complicated to prepare. Even today, fried chicken continues to be a symbol of comfort and tradition, reminding us of a time when meals were made with care and shared with those we loved. 13th, shepherd's pie. Shepherd's pie is the ultimate comfort food, a dish that offers warmth, heartiness, and a satisfying blend of flavors in every bite. In the 1960s, this beloved casserole became a regular in many American kitchens, offering an easy and affordable way to feed a family. Made with a layer of savory ground beef, vegetables, and topped with a creamy golden layer of mashed potatoes, shepherd's pie was a meal that brought both comfort and nourishment to the dinner table. While shepherd's pie originated in the United Kingdom, the 1960s American version often featured ground beef rather than lamb, which made it more affordable and accessible for the average family. The beauty of this dish was its simplicity and its ability to stretch ingredients. Ground beef was browned and cooked with onions, carrots, peas, and sometimes corn, then topped with mashed potatoes. The pie was then baked until the top became golden and crispy, creating a delicious contrast to the tender filling beneath. For busy families in the 1960s, shepherd's pie was the ideal dish. Ground beef was inexpensive, and the recipe made good use of leftovers, whether leftover mashed potatoes from another meal or extra vegetables from a previous dinner. The dish could be assembled ahead of time and popped in the oven when it was time to eat, making it a great option for busy moms looking to get a hearty, flavorful meal on the table without much effort. The one-dish nature of shepherd's pie also made cleanup easy, a big plus for families trying to balance work, school, and family life. The versatility of shepherd's pie was another reason it became a staple. While the classic recipe called for beef and potatoes, variations were common. Some families added grated cheese to the mashed potatoes, while others used different vegetables, or even swapped the beef for ground turkey or lamb for a change. Even today, shepherd's pie remains a symbol of hearty, satisfying comfort food. It's a dish that brings back memories of simpler times when meals were about making the most of what you had and enjoying them with the ones you loved. 14. Meatball subs. Meatball subs were a beloved and simple meal in the 1960s, capturing the spirit of the decade's growing interest in Italian-American cuisine. This hearty, satisfying sandwich became a family favorite, often making an appearance at dinner tables and casual gatherings. The combination of savory meatballs, marinara sauce, and melted cheese, all nestled between a soft, warm sub roll, made for a filling meal that was both comforting and easy to prepare. The roots of the meatball sub trace back to Italian immigrants, but by the 1960s, it had been fully embraced into American food culture. Ground beef mixed with breadcrumbs, eggs, and seasonings, then formed into meatballs and simmered in a rich tomato sauce, was a practical and flavorful choice for busy families. It was a dish that didn't require too many ingredients, but still offered a satisfying taste. Meatballs were often cooked in large batches, making it easy to prepare a meal for the whole family, with leftovers for later in the week. What made meatball subs so appealing in the 1960s was their versatility and ease of preparation. The meatballs themselves could be seasoned in various ways. Some families added garlic, parsley, or Parmesan cheese to the mix. Once the meatballs were simmered in marinara sauce, they were ready to be served. The sub rolls, often toasted to achieve the perfect balance of crispy and soft, would then be stuffed with the meatballs and topped with a generous layer of melted mozzarella or provolone cheese. For 1960s families, meatball subs were an ideal dinner choice, quick, affordable, and easy to customize. Whether eaten for dinner at home or packed for a picnic, they provided a filling meal that everyone could enjoy. Today, meatball subs continue to evoke the nostalgia of mid-century family meals, offering a classic taste of simple, comforting food that has stood the test of time. 15th, stuffed bell peppers. Stuffed bell peppers became a popular dinner choice in the 1960s, offering a colorful, satisfying, and affordable meal that could easily be adapted to fit a variety of tastes. With their vibrant colors and hearty fillings, stuffed peppers were as much a visual treat as they were a flavorful one. For families during this time, stuffed bell peppers were a great way to stretch ingredients, especially when combined with ground meat, rice, and a few simple seasonings. The beauty of stuffed bell peppers lay in their versatility. The peppers themselves were hollowed out and stuffed with a mixture of seasoned ground beef, rice, onions, and sometimes tomatoes. Many families added a little cheese to the filling or topped the peppers with a sprinkling of cheese before baking them. The result was a delicious, well-rounded meal with a balance of textures, from the tender bell pepper exterior to the savory, hearty filling inside. The peppers were often baked in a tomato-based sauce or served with a side of the same sauce, providing extra moisture and flavor. Stuffed peppers were also a great dish for busy families in the 1960s. Ground beef was affordable and filling, while rice added bulk, making the dish a cost-effective way to feed a family. The peppers could be prepared ahead of time and then baked when it was time for dinner, making them a practical option for those with hectic schedules. Furthermore, stuffed bell peppers made use of leftovers, such as cooked rice or vegetables, allowing families to minimize food waste and make the most of what they had in the kitchen. For many families in the 1960s, stuffed bell peppers became a weekly staple, a dish that felt like a special treat but was easy enough to prepare. They were often served with simple sides like mashed potatoes, a green salad, or bread. Today, stuffed bell peppers remain a nostalgic meal, evoking memories of a time when meals were all about comfort, creativity, and gathering around the dinner table to share a satisfying, wholesome dish. 16th, Sloppy Joes. Sloppy Joes were a true 1960s classic, quick to prepare, affordable, and satisfying. With their tangy, savory filling spilling out of soft buns, these messy sandwiches became a go-to meal in American homes during the decade. Perfect for busy families or casual dinners, Sloppy Joes offered a simple and delicious way to feed the family without much fuss. The origins of Sloppy Joes are a bit debated, but by the 1960s, they had become an iconic American dish, made with ground beef, onions, and a tangy sauce. The filling was usually sweetened with ketchup and seasoned with mustard, Worcestershire sauce, or a hint of vinegar. The result was a rich, flavorful sandwich that was the perfect balance of sweet, savory, and tangy. The filling was usually piled high between soft hamburger buns, making for a hearty, satisfying meal. One of the reasons Sloppy Joes became so popular in the 1960s was their simplicity. The ingredients were easy to find and inexpensive, making them an ideal meal for families on a budget. Ground beef was affordable, and the rest of the ingredients, ketchup, mustard, and Worcestershire sauce, were pantry staples in most homes. With just a few simple steps, families could create a meal that felt indulgent, but was also quick and easy to prepare. For families in the 1960s, sloppy joes were the perfect meal for weeknights, picnics, or even lunch. It was a flexible dish, often customized with ingredients like bell peppers or garlic for added flavor. Sloppy joes were also great for feeding a crowd, making them a favorite for gatherings or potlucks. The joy of eating a sloppy joe came from its messy, no-fuss nature, encouraging everyone to dig in and enjoy the meal without worrying about perfection. Even today, sloppy joes remain a nostalgic, comforting meal that reminds us of simpler times when a meal didn't need to be fancy to bring joy. 17. Beef and bean burritos. In the 1960s, the growing popularity of Mexican-inspired cuisine in the United States introduced many families to the hearty and flavorful beef and bean burrito. This simple yet satisfying meal quickly became a favorite, offering a delicious combination of protein, beans, and spices, all wrapped up in a warm flour tortilla. It was a dish that felt both comforting and a little adventurous, allowing families to explore new flavors while sticking to affordable, accessible ingredients. The 1960s marked a time when convenience and affordability in the kitchen were key. Ground beef, a staple in many American homes, paired perfectly with beans, another cheap and filling ingredient. Refried beans, often used in burritos, added a creamy richness to the dish, while the seasoned beef provided a savory depth of flavor. Together, they formed a satisfying filling that could be wrapped up in a soft flour tortilla, creating a meal that was easy to prepare, portable, and incredibly satisfying. What made beef and bean burritos so appealing in the 1960s was their versatility. While the basic filling consisted of ground beef, refried beans, and a few spices, families could easily adjust the recipe based on personal preferences or what they had on hand. Some added shredded cheese, salsa, or lettuce to give the burritos extra flavor and texture. Others might drizzle sour cream on top or bake the burritos for a crispy finish, making them even more indulgent. The burrito's flexibility made it a perfect choice for busy families, as it could be made in large batches, eaten as a quick dinner or packed for lunch. For families in the 1960s, beef and bean burritos offered a simple, affordable way to enjoy a flavorful meal that could be customized to suit any taste. Even today, these burritos remain a favorite, beloved for their satisfying filling and easy preparation. Whether enjoyed as a quick weeknight dinner or a fun family meal, beef and bean burritos continue to evoke the flavors and warmth of a simpler time. 18. Corned beef hash. Corned beef hash is the ultimate comfort food. Hearty, savory, and wonderfully satisfying. For many families in the 1960s, it was a go-to dish that could be made quickly and easily, often using leftovers from a previous meal. The crispy edges of corned beef and potatoes, paired with the tender chunks of meat, made for a meal that felt substantial and warm, perfect for busy mornings or casual dinners. The beauty of corned beef hash lies in its simplicity. The dish typically consisted of corned beef, either canned or leftover from a previous meal, potatoes, and onions, all chopped up and fried together in a skillet. The combination of the salty corned beef with the crispy golden potatoes created a perfect balance of flavors and textures. Some families added a bit of seasoning, like garlic or paprika, to enhance the flavor, while others tossed in a few bell peppers or even a handful of peas for added color and nutrition. No matter how it was made, corned beef hash was always comforting and filling. For families in the 1960s, corned beef hash was a practical solution for a quick, inexpensive meal. Canned corned beef was widely available and affordable, making it an easy choice for busy homemakers who wanted to stretch their food budget. Potatoes were another affordable staple, and when combined with the corned beef, they created a dish that could easily feed a large family. This simple yet flavorful meal also had the advantage of being a one-pan dish, which made cleanup easy, a definite plus for busy families trying to juggle multiple tasks. Corned beef hash was especially popular for breakfast, often served with eggs on top, either fried or scrambled, but it also made a hearty dinner, especially when paired with a side of crusty bread or a fresh salad. The versatility and convenience of corned beef hash made it a beloved dish in the 1960s, and it continues to be a nostalgic comfort food today, reminding us of a time when meals didn't need to be complicated to bring joy and satisfaction. 19. Shrimp scampi. Shrimp scampi is one of those dishes that exudes a sense of sophistication and indulgence, yet it remains simple and approachable. In the 1960s, it became a popular choice for family dinners, offering a delicious and flavorful meal without requiring hours of preparation. The dish, featuring tender shrimp cooked in a garlic butter sauce with a touch of lemon, quickly became a favorite in American kitchens, especially as families began embracing more variety in their meals, inspired by international flavors. During the 1960s, seafood was gaining popularity in American households, and shrimp was an affordable option that could be easily found at the grocery store. Shrimp scampi, with its rich butter sauce and light, zesty lemon flavor, offered a perfect balance of elegance and simplicity. The dish was often served over pasta, making it a complete and satisfying meal, though it could also be paired with rice or crusty bread to soak up the delicious sauce. The beauty of shrimp scampi lies in its ease of preparation. The shrimp is quickly sautéed in butter and olive oil, infused with garlic and lemon, and finished with a sprinkle of fresh parsley. The sauce, with its perfect balance of richness from the butter and a refreshing kick from the lemon, made every bite of shrimp burst with flavor. In the 1960s, when convenience was key in the kitchen, the fact that shrimp scampi could be made in under 30 minutes made it an ideal dish for busy families who wanted something that felt both special and easy to prepare. What made shrimp scampi even more appealing during this time was its versatility. While the base recipe remained simple, home cooks could easily add their own touches. Whether it was a dash of white wine, a sprinkle of Parmesan, or a pinch of red pepper flakes for a little heat. Shrimp scampi was the perfect example of how the 1960s kitchen embraced convenience without sacrificing flavor or style. Today, shrimp scampi remains a nostalgic reminder of the mid-century dining experience, a dish that still feels luxurious and comforting, just as it did for families in the 1960s. 20. Meatloaf with mashed potatoes. Ah, meatloaf. If there's one dish that perfectly captures the essence of a 1960s family meal, it's this one. It's hearty, simple, and unmistakably American. A true comfort food that sat at the center of the dinner table for countless families throughout the decade. Meatloaf with mashed potatoes wasn't just dinner, it was a symbol of home-cooked reliability. When the world seemed to be changing rapidly, meatloaf was there, steady and familiar, like your mom's worn-in apron, or the sound of the dinner bell ringing after a long day. In the 1960s, meatloaf wasn't just a meal, it was an event. Mom would stand over the stove, mixing together ground beef, breadcrumbs, and a variety of spices, all while the smells of onions and garlic began to fill the house. It wasn't just about the meatloaf itself, though that was the star. No, the sides were just as important, most notably, mashed potatoes. The potatoes would be mashed with butter and cream until they were smooth and velvety, a perfect match for the rich, savory meatloaf. Sometimes gravy was poured over both, adding an extra layer of indulgence to this already decadent dish. The beauty of meatloaf was in its simplicity. Most families didn't need anything fancy to make it. Ground beef was the star, often mixed with a handful of breadcrumbs, eggs, and some seasoning, with maybe a dash of Worcestershire sauce to give it a little oomph. It could be shaped into a loaf and baked in the oven, or sometimes a casserole dish was used to make it extra hearty. And when it came to seasoning, that was up to each household's preferences. Some might add a little garlic, others a sprinkle of thyme or rosemary. It was a dish that could easily be personalized, but still maintain that same feeling of comfort and tradition. And then, there was the glaze. The 1960s was all about those vibrant, glossy toppings, and meatloaf was no exception. Most families would finish their meatloaf with a sweet and tangy ketchup glaze, adding a bit of color and flavor to the top. When it came out of the oven, that sweet, sticky glaze would gleam like a jewel, tempting everyone in the house to gather around the table. As the family dug in, the mashed potatoes would accompany the meatloaf, their smooth, buttery richness balancing out the savory meat. It wasn't just about the food, it was about family, sitting together, sharing stories, and enjoying something simple and delicious made the ordinary meal feel special. For many, it's hard to imagine a week without meatloaf on the menu. It was one of those meals you could make on a Tuesday, and somehow, it felt just as comforting as Sunday dinner. Meatloaf with mashed potatoes, always dependable, always satisfying, and a timeless reminder of the love that was stirred into every home-cooked meal. It's a dish that will always hold a special place in the hearts of those who remember the 1960s kitchen, and for good reason. 21st, clam chowder. Clam chowder is the kind of dish that feels like a warm hug on a cold day. A rich, creamy soup, brimming with tender clams, potatoes, and vegetables. It was a beloved meal for many families in the 1960s, offering comfort in a bowl. Though its roots are in New England, the popularity of clam chowder spread across the United States during this time, becoming a favorite, especially in coastal regions where fresh seafood was abundant. Its creamy texture and savory flavor made it the perfect dish for family dinners, whether as a starter or the main course. In the 1960s, the rise of canned soups and convenience foods made clam chowder a quick and easy meal to prepare. While homemade clam chowder using fresh clams was a treat, many families relied on canned clams for convenience, making it a practical option for busy households. The basic ingredients, clams, potatoes, onions, celery, and cream, were staples that could be easily found at the local grocery store. The soup was rich, with a base of cream or milk, making it feel indulgent and comforting. The beauty of clam chowder was in its simplicity and versatility. While the New England version, which is creamy and white, was the most popular, variations could be found across the country. Some families added bacon or ham for extra flavor, while others included herbs like thyme or bay leaves for an aromatic twist. The soup was typically served with saltine crackers or a thick slice of buttered bread, perfect for dipping and adding an extra layer of comfort to the meal. For families in the 1960s, clam chowder was the perfect dish for a cozy, satisfying dinner. It was a comforting meal that didn't require a lot of preparation, yet felt indulgent enough to be special. The creamy soup, paired with warm bread or crackers, became a staple in many homes. It was a dish that provided warmth on a chilly evening and a sense of nostalgia that continues to endure today. Even today, clam chowder remains a favorite, reminding us of a time when meals were simpler and food was all about comfort and tradition. It continues to evoke memories of family dinners shared over a bowl of this creamy, savory soup. 22nd, chicken pot pie. Chicken pot pie is the ultimate comfort food, with its flaky, golden crust enveloping a creamy, savory filling that's packed with tender chicken, vegetables, and rich gravy. For many families in the 1960s, chicken pot pie was the epitome of home-cooked warmth, a dish that could be easily prepared, was satisfying, and felt like a special treat. This dish became a staple in many kitchens, thanks to its versatility, affordability, and ability to use up leftovers in a delicious way. In the 1960s, convenience was key in home cooking, and chicken pot pie fit perfectly into that ethos. Canned vegetables and pre-made pie crusts made it easier for homemakers to prepare this dish without much hassle. While some families made the entire pot pie from scratch, others turned to frozen or canned ingredients to save time. The filling typically consisted of cooked chicken, peas, carrots, and sometimes potatoes, all mixed with a creamy sauce made from butter, flour, milk, and chicken broth. This combination created a smooth, comforting base that was both hearty and flavorful. What made chicken pot pie so appealing in the 1960s was its versatility and the way it could be customized. You could use leftover chicken from a roast or rotisserie chicken, making it a practical option for busy families. Some cooks added mushrooms or celery for extra flavor, while others might spice it up with a pinch of thyme or sage. The pie crust, whether homemade or store-bought, added a crispy, buttery finish that contrasted perfectly with the creamy filling. It was a one-dish meal that required little else, but could easily be paired with a side salad or bread. For families in the 1960s, chicken pot pie was a go-to comfort meal that brought everyone to the table. It was the kind of dish that felt nourishing without being overly complicated to prepare. Even today, chicken pot pie remains a favorite, a nostalgic reminder of a time when meals were all about simplicity, satisfaction, and the joy of family mealtime. 23rd, chicken cacciatore. Chicken cacciatore, a rustic and flavorful Italian-American dish, found its place in many 1960s kitchens as families began embracing international flavors. This comforting dish, which translates to hunter's chicken in Italian, features tender chicken simmered in a savory tomato-based sauce with peppers, onions, garlic, and herbs, making it a perfect weeknight dinner or Sunday family meal. In the 1960s, as American tastes were expanding, chicken cacciatore provided an accessible way for families to explore Italian cuisine, adding a bit of culinary adventure to their tables without leaving home. By the 1960s, the post-war convenience boom had made cooking easier with the rise of canned goods and pre-made ingredients, but chicken cacciatore still retained its rustic charm. While some cooks prepared everything from scratch, others relied on canned tomatoes and jarred herbs to speed up the process. The dish is simple in concept, but delivers a complexity of flavors thanks to the combination of tender chicken, fragrant garlic, bell peppers, and aromatic herbs like oregano and basil. It is the kind of dish that invites you to slow down, allowing the flavors to meld as it simmers. For families in the 1960s, chicken cacciatore was a satisfying meal that could be made in one pot, cutting down on cleanup time. Chicken thighs or breasts, seasoned and browned, were added to a sauce of tomatoes, garlic, onions, and bell peppers, then simmered until the meat was tender and infused with the rich flavors of the sauce. Some versions included a splash of red wine, adding a subtle depth to the dish. The result was a hearty meal that could be served over pasta, rice, or even with a side of crusty bread to soak up the flavorful sauce. What made chicken cacciatore so appealing was its versatility. It was a dish that could be easily adapted depending on the cook's preferences or what ingredients were on hand. Some families added mushrooms, olives, or capers, giving the dish their own twist. Whether served as a comforting weeknight meal or a special Sunday dinner, chicken cacciatore provided the warmth and satisfaction that so many 1960s families sought in their meals. Today, it remains a beloved dish that evokes the flavors and spirit of simpler times, when food brought families together around the table. 24th pot roast. Pot roast is one of those dishes that embodies comfort, tradition, and the warmth of family meals. In the 1960s, this hearty, slow-cooked dish became a staple for many American families, especially on Sundays or during special occasions. A simple yet satisfying meal, pot roast, featured a large cut of beef, often chuck roast, cooked slowly in a flavorful broth until the meat was tender and falling apart. The addition of vegetables like carrots, onions, and potatoes made it a one-pot meal that was not only filling but also incredibly comforting. Pot roast has its roots in the days when slow cooking was the norm, before the convenience of fast food or prepackaged meals. In the 1960s, families still loved the process of cooking meals slowly, letting the flavors develop and the house fill with the mouth-watering aroma of roasting beef. The cut of beef used for pot roast was typically affordable, and when cooked low and slow, it became tender and infused with flavor. The beauty of pot roast was in its simplicity. A chuck roast, seasoned with salt, pepper, and sometimes garlic, would be browned in a bit of oil to create a flavorful crust. After browning, the roast was placed in a large pot, along with broth or water, and simmered for hours. Vegetables like carrots, potatoes, and onions were added toward the end, allowing them to cook in the rich broth, soaking up all the savory goodness from the meat. The result was a comforting, flavorful dish that felt like home. For families in the 1960s, pot roast was the ultimate Sunday dinner. It could be made in the morning and left to cook throughout the day, allowing the family to enjoy a warm meal with minimal effort. The leftovers could be used for sandwiches or served the next day as a second hearty meal. It was also a dish that could be made for larger gatherings, making it an ideal choice for family and friends. Today, pot roast remains a nostalgic symbol of hearty, home-cooked meals, reminding us of a time when food wasn't just about convenience. It was about creating something that brought everyone together. 25th, baked ham with pineapple. Baked ham with pineapple was a dish that graced many tables in the 1960s, often reserved for special occasions, holiday meals, or Sunday dinners. Its sweet and savory flavor combination made it a crowd pleaser, perfect for feeding a family and guests alike. The dish, with its glossy, caramelized glaze and tender meat, became synonymous with festive meals, evoking a sense of celebration and indulgence. Whether served for Easter, Christmas, or a family gathering, baked ham with pineapple had a way of transforming an ordinary meal into something special. The recipe for baked ham with pineapple was simple but incredibly flavorful. A large ham, often a bone-in cut, would be coated with a sweet glaze made from ingredients like brown sugar, honey, mustard, and pineapple juice. Pineapple slices were often arranged on top of the ham, or pineapple chunks were nestled in the roasting pan to cook alongside the meat, infusing it with a natural sweetness and adding a tropical touch. The ham would then be baked slowly in the oven, allowing the fat to render and the glaze to caramelize, creating a golden, sticky exterior that contrasted beautifully with the tender, juicy meat inside. For families in the 1960s, baked ham with pineapple was a dish that felt elegant, yet was easy enough to prepare. Ham was an affordable cut of meat that could feed a large group, making it perfect for holiday dinners or family gatherings. The combination of sweet pineapple and savory ham was universally loved, and the dish was often served alongside other comfort food staples like mashed potatoes, green beans, and rolls, creating a well-rounded and satisfying meal. The popularity of this dish also reflected the 1960s fascination with balancing convenience and creativity in the kitchen. While many of the ingredients, like canned pineapple and pre-cooked ham, were easy to find and required minimal preparation, the final result felt luxurious and festive. Today, baked ham with pineapple still holds a special place in the hearts of those who remember it from family gatherings. It's a dish that brings back memories of simpler times when meals were about bringing people together to share good food and create lasting memories. The 1960s marked a transformative time in American kitchens. As families emerged from the post-war era and embraced the rapid advancements in technology, cooking was no longer just about basic sustenance. It became about convenience, creativity, and enjoyment. The dishes from this decade reflect a unique blend of practicality and indulgence, offering comfort and joy, while incorporating global influences and modern kitchen conveniences. The 25 meals explored in this collection provide a snapshot of a time when the American dinner table was filled with hearty, flavorful meals that didn't have to be complicated to bring families together. From the creamy richness of tuna noodle casserole to the indulgent comfort of chicken pot pie, many of the dishes that graced the 1960s table were built on simplicity. Convenience foods like canned soups, prepackaged sauces, and frozen vegetables were incorporated into everyday meals, making cooking easier and more efficient for busy households. Yet, even in this new age of convenience, home cooks found ways to imbue their meals with warmth and tradition, whether through meatloaf, beef stroganoff, or the ever-popular spaghetti and meatballs. These meals allowed families to enjoy hearty, satisfying dishes without spending hours in the kitchen. The 1960s also marked a time when American palates began to expand. Dishes like chicken cacciatore and beef and bean burritos reflected the growing interest in international flavors, especially Italian and Mexican cuisines, which had begun to influence the American culinary landscape. Home cooks eagerly embraced these new flavors, adapting them to fit their needs, creating a fusion of American and ethnic cooking that would set the stage for the diverse food culture we enjoy today. Many of the meals we've revisited in this script are enduring classics. Dishes like sloppy joes, corned beef hash, and clam chowder continue to evoke nostalgia for simpler times when family dinners were the highlight of the day. These meals were often designed to be easy to make, affordable, and adaptable to what families had on hand, yet they offered a sense of ritual, comfort, and connection. Whether it was the simplicity of hot dogs with sauerkraut, the indulgence of fried chicken, or the heartiness of pot roast, these meals brought families together and provided both nourishment and joy. One of the most remarkable aspects of 1960s family meals is how they balanced tradition and innovation. While the rise of convenience foods changed the way families cooked, there was still a strong desire to maintain the familiar comforts of home-cooked meals. Whether using store-bought ingredients like pre-cooked ham for baked ham with pineapple or relying on canned goods to whip up a quick meatball sub, families found ways to create meals that felt special without requiring too much time or effort. Today, these 25 meals remain a nostalgic reminder of a time when food was more about connection than perfection. The dishes from the 1960s remind us that family meals didn't have to be elaborate to be meaningful. They were about gathering around the table, sharing a meal, and enjoying the simple pleasure of good food and good company. As we reflect on these forgotten meals, we can appreciate not only the comfort they provided, but also the way they shaped the way we cook and share meals today. These dishes have stood the test of time, and their lasting appeal shows that no matter how much food culture evolves, the desire for warmth, satisfaction, and family will always be at the heart of the meal.